Giannis has again given the Milwaukee Bucks an ultimatum. Build the team to win or watch him walk. So the Bucks went out and got a Hall of Famer. But is it enough?
I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going for a championship. Everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I'm not signing. Jrue, your reaction.
Right when Giannis was considering leaving the Bucks, the Blazers broke the NBA summer with a blockbuster trade. Damian Lillard to Milwaukee. The Blazers got back Jrue Holiday. But was that too big a price to pay? The trade of the summer. When Scoot Henderson was drafted number 3 to the Trailblazers, Dame decided he'd had enough. He took the team to the playoffs 8 straight years, and after spending 2 seasons tanking, they drafted his replacement. He requested a trade, saying it had to be the Miami Heat. The Blazers couldn't get a good enough package from Miami, so they started looking elsewhere. Jimmy couldn't believe it.
This is high-rate robbery. Man.
He even wanted the NBA to investigate for tampering.
Yo, NBA, man. Y'all need to look into the Bucks for tampering. Y'all do. I'm just gonna put that out there. Y'all didn't hear it from me, but I heard it through somebody. Y'all look at him for tampering.
Remember, this is after Giannis picked Damian Lillard before Jrue Holiday in the All-Star game this year.
My first pick gonna be Damian Lillard.
Did Lillard just ask for the trade to the Heat to lower his stock to make it easier to get traded to the Bucks? Is this tampering? But ultimately, they pulled it off with a good old 3-team trade. Jrue Holiday, along with DeAndre Ayton from Phoenix, got shipped off to Portland. Dame came to Miami. Phoenix got reimbursed with a deeper bench and the knowledge that Ayton won't be making any more boneheaded decisions while playing in a Suns uniform. Was this trade the right move? Was it the right decision?
I like that. I'm so glad to be here. This is lit. I'm ready though.
Jrue was their best defensive backcourt player, able to lock down anybody 6'8" or smaller. Between Jrue, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, the Bucks were feared on the defensive end.
He's tied at 2 apiece. Marcus Smart goes to the rack and blocked by Jrue Holiday. He throws it off Smart. Milwaukee ball. What a play by Jrue Holiday.
Offensively, he's always been a solid B-. He can get to the basket, finish in traffic, and set up the offense efficiently. But statistically, his numbers do dip in the playoffs just a hair. Jrue shot below 41% in each of the previous 3 postseasons, each season with the Bucks. Compare that to his 49% shooting in the regular season, and it's easy to put some of the blame on his shoulders for their last 2 early playoff exits.
Connaughton passes up a 3. Holiday for 3. It's good! Jrue Holiday!
Damian Lillard is a born scorer. People were considering Dame to be past his prime this past year, so he went out and dropped 71 points.
High dribble, into the lane, running right-hander up and in, Damian Lillard. With that runner, 71 points, a career high.
Giannis might be the best player on earth, but he's flawed. He can't score from outside, meaning he has to do all of his damage from 3 feet. If his teammates aren't hitting shots, his team isn't winning. They needed to bring in firepower, so they sacrificed defense for Dame. But the only reason they made the trade was because of Giannis's ultimatum. They knew that this time he was for real, because this is not the first time Giannis has considered leaving the franchise or even the NBA. That time Giannis almost quit the league. A few months ago, Giannis spoke to Lori Nickel of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel about the time he almost packed his bags and left the NBA entirely.
How seriously were you considering that?
Very serious.
And how are you now?
I feel great. I'm still here. That was 3 years ago.
This was way back in 2020, coming on the heels of 2 rough playoff exits. He was drafted in 2013, a rough project, picked 15th in a historically bad draft. He's worked his way to the top, combining his natural athleticism with increased skill, bulking up, and becoming one of the league's most feared competitors. By 2019, he was voted MVP on a team that won 60 games, best in the league.
The 2019 Kia NBA Most Valuable Player goes to Giannis Antetokounmpo.
But then, he matched up against Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors, the one-hit wonder team who beat Giannis and the Bucks on the way to Toronto's first NBA title. Losing as a heavy favorite is never great, but they brushed it off. It happens, rebound and come back the next year, right? Only the next year, it was way worse. They didn't even make it to the conference finals, getting beat by Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat 4-1 in round 2. That's embarrassing. The Bucks won 56 games in a COVID-shortened season, on pace for about 63 wins. The Heat were a 5 seed, 2 straight MVPs, 2 straight playoff collapses.
When I retire from this game, I want to disappear. I want to go somewhere that they will not go on me.
Talking to Nickel earlier this year, Giannis recalled being ready to walk away from the game. By the way, this was right after Giannis signed the biggest contract in NBA history, $250 million. That summer, the Bucks made a few big moves to keep Giannis around, namely trading Eric Bledsoe for the defensive wrecker in Jrue Holiday. The very next season, Giannis came back down 2-0 in his first NBA Finals appearance to beat the Phoenix Suns, bringing the Bucks their first chip in 50 years.
It's over. The Bucks have done it. The long wait has ended. After a half century, the Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again.
Talking to the New York Times in late August, Giannis said that winning the title was the best feeling he's felt so far while playing basketball. So why does all of this mean that Giannis was going to leave the Bucks? Giannis's real priorities. In that same New York Times interview, he talked about what really mattered to him. He said, "I care about joy and happiness. I care about my kids." Giannis had his 3rd child on September 16th with Mariah Riddlespringer. His new baby girl is named Eva Brooke, in addition to her brothers Liam and Maverick. On top of his new family, those he grew up with are everything to him. When he was drafted in 2013, he threatened to stay in Greece if his parents didn't come with him to America. The Bucks even have his brother, Thanasis, on their roster, probably only because Giannis asked them to. That was the reason he almost left in 2020. He wanted to spend more time with the things he truly cared about. The Bucks recommended he speak to a sports psychologist when he'd realized the joy in basketball was drained from him after the devastating 2020 loss to Miami. According to that New York Times article, he developed better ways of dealing with stress and coping with the pressure of winning a title. That very next season, Giannis led them to the promised land. Simply put, if the Bucks aren't contending for a championship, what's the point? Why deal with the stress of playing, the pain of losing, and the separation from his family if there's not a ring at the end of the line? This year's playoff loss was especially heart-wrenching. In the first round, they lost to the Miami Heat, an 8 seed who had a negative point differential in the regular season. Giannis missed 2 games, but even so, that's an unacceptable loss for a player of his caliber on a contending team. Worst of all, the game came down to this head-scratching decision by Giannis.
Antetokounmpo has it, and he lost it into the seats, saved it.
After the loss, Giannis said this.
There's no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn.
Some people hated the quote, thinking it signaled a lack of competitive spirit. Others praised it, saying it showed emotional maturity. But the truth is, if your goal is to win a title and you don't, that is, at least in part, a failure. And even LeBron knew something was up with Giannis.
He always talk about loyalty and being loyal.
I know who my
and
team
all that
is,
stuff, right? So I knew for sure his first pick was going to be Jrue, so I don't know what's going on with Giannis.
All jokes aside though, trading for Dame means moments like that do not happen. Trading for Dame means Grayson Allen isn't taking clutch shots. Giannis is still going to be the focal point of the offense, as well he should be. But their strategy in the playoff last year was give it to Giannis and hope for the best. Giannis is a poor free throw shooter. He shot 45% last postseason. He can't get you a bucket outside, and he's the opposite of a three-point threat. That's all fine when you have good scorers around him, but that was starting to slip away. At this stage of his career, Lopez is nothing more than a spot-up shooter on offense. Middleton can't be counted on going forward due to injury concerns. It's hard to know when to let go of a championship core. The Celtics never did it in the early 1990s, and all of their stars aged out at the same time, leading to dark times in Boston. The Bulls got rid of everyone in 1998, not wanting what happened to the Celtics to happen to them. That didn't work so well either. The current Warriors might have nailed it, keeping the core trio together longer than expected, eking out an extra title in 2022. We're still waiting to see if it'll work going forward. Until the Dame trade, the only moves that the Bucks made this year were re-signing Middleton and Lopez. That's not something that'll keep Giannis from fleeing, but trading for Dame might be. But what if it's not? Is the Dame trade enough? The new duo is already being deemed freak time, and Big Perk made a bold comparison.
You take Dame Dollar and you put him in that system with those players, especially Giannis, it's going to be Shaq and Kobe like. I got them winning it all.
Ooh, and Shaq and Kobe won 3 straight titles.
3 straight titles? Let's pump the brakes. The Bucks are going to be worse on defense. Dame has never been a good defender, and now that he's in his mid-30s, that's going to be the first thing he lets slip. Jrue might be the best defensive guard in the league, so the Bucks are actively choosing to sacrifice defense in the name of getting more buckets. That's not a problem. Defensive specialists are a lot easier to come by, and a lot cheaper, than 30-point per game scorers. But what if other things start to slip? Look, Dame's 2023 season was incredible. He averaged 32 points per game and was named 3rd team All-NBA just a few seasons after people were counting him out. But history tells us that small point guards don't last into their 30s. Westbrook is a freak of nature, but he stopped being an all-star by 32. Chris Paul looks like he was done after he turned 30, until an all-plant diet and a high basketball IQ revitalized his career. Steph is still balling at a high level, but he's also missed a lot of games these last few years. Dame is soon gonna cost $50 million a year for the Bucks. If he ages poorly, that's a huge investment. Best case scenario, he has 3 or 4 more good years left, and then this becomes an iconic all-time duo. Dame gets his first ring, and Giannis gets cemented as the second best power forward ever. Worst case scenario, Dame gets hurt, slips in play, and Giannis leaves. But when you are faced with Giannis's potential departure, and you have the option to trade for a guy like Dame, you do it. Every single time. Do you think this Dame trade will work? Do you think Giannis will end up leaving the Bucks? Let us know in the comments, then watch one of these videos next. Listen to the Wrong Opinion, Useless NBA Trivia, and Garbage Rankings for more NBA content.